sunny day here on Botany Bay 15 years ago. The perfect day for flying. Captain Rod Lovell is looking forward to his flight to Norfolk Island, in charge of a World War II DC-3. His passengers are schoolboys from the exclusive Scots College Pipes and Drum Band, off to perform at an Anzac Day ceremony. As the plane takes off and heads out to sea, the port engine dies. It is now up to the captain to ensure that his 24 passengers and crew get out alive.
From the time we had the engine failure until we hit the water was about 46 seconds, so it wasn't a long time to think about what I was going to do. 46 seconds went in a flash.
10 seconds after takeoff, the pilot made his emergency call, alerting air traffic control that he was losing power. Another 10 seconds passed before the pilot announced that he was planning to ditch the craft.
From that moment, pilot Rod Lovell knew the lives of the 25 people on board were in his hands.
When the left engine made a bang or two bangs and the aircraft yawed to the left, and that's when you know there's something major happened.
Coming up.
The DC-3 was certified to fly on one engine and climb out on one engine, and that's what I was expecting to happen, and it didn't happen.
15 years ago, pilot Rod Lovell chose to ditch his plane and its schoolboy passengers in the water after one of the engines had failed.
From the time we had the engine failure until we hit the water was about 46 seconds, so it wasn't a long time to think about what I was going to do.
Once Rod Lovell realised the aircraft was going to crash, he banked towards the third runway so they could be closer to the shore.
Behind the cockpit, the helpless school students counted down to impact.
The big thought that was going through my mind all the time was a very unfortunate accident of the King Air that hit the seawall there, I think it was in 1980, with the loss of a lot of lives. And I was determined that wasn't going to happen to my passengers. That was an incredible driving thought.
But even on one engine, this plane should have stayed in the air.
The DC-3 was certified to fly on one engine and climb out on one engine, and that's what I was expecting to happen, and it didn't happen. We hit the water in a slightly nose-up attitude. I guess some people could call it violent. I wouldn't. It was just a sharp impact. There were reports in the paper of the aeroplane going under the water and then bobbing back up. That did not happen.
Rod had pulled off a remarkable crash landing.
The co-pilot and myself were both thrown forward, our heads thrown forward and impacted the windscreen. And I think we were stunned for probably a couple of seconds. I tidied up the cockpit and then helped him get people out. It was a serious accident, and you don't know what it's like. I'd never been through a real ditching before, and I expected the worst. I really did. In my mind, I believed that there would have been carnage and limbs everywhere down the back. And when I walked down the back through the radio racks, etc., I was totally elated. I couldn't believe it. I expected the worst. I really did. And to turn around and see all these kids standing up was unforgettable.
The most seriously injured was a flight attendant who was taken to hospital suffering head injuries and a broken wrist.
After his co-pilot jumped clear, Rod was the last to leave the wreck.
People always say we're put on this earth for a reason. And I thought, perhaps that is my reason, I don't know. But yes, immense satisfaction. I believe I did a good job.
Pilot Rod Lovell is being hailed a hero.
On reflection, I wouldn't have changed any of my actions that I carried out. And I hope there's 23 people that will back me up on it.
But in the air accident investigation, the pilot, once hailed as a hero, was accused of being partly responsible by leaving the co-pilot at the controls for too long.
He was just doing the takeoff, and with the engine failure, everything went according to plan as per drills, and I was unfairly criticised for delaying the taking over control of the aeroplane, or the controls, but that's not true at all. When it wasn't gaining altitude and performance was degrading, which means it was slowing down, that's when I took back the flying controls of the aeroplane. They weren't there.
The CAA claimed the plane may have been overweight and that some emergency procedures may not have been correctly followed.
In June, there was a concern as to his ability to satisfy requirements.
It was about 9 weeks later when the department, the Civil Aviation Authority, sent me a fax to my home suspending my licence. It was probably the worst day of my life.
Rod Lovell now says the CAA's actions and not the plane crash have grounded his career.
What career?
Rod won back his pilot's licence in court, but by then had paid dearly for it.
It's curtailed my flying career enormously because I've had an aircraft accident in which the government departments have blamed me.
15 years on, Rod returns to Botany Bay, to the waters that could have claimed the lives of the 26 people on board that plane. Rod, what's it like coming back here where the accident occurred?
Well, you just relive it, recall it, what happened 15 years ago in your mind, and I just see it as a job well done, and it's great to come back and be able to come back.
What were the odds of the outcome of that scenario being one person breaking their wrists and no one dying or no further injuries?
There are not many successful ditchings at all in passenger aeroplanes or passenger airlines, where 100% of the people get out without injury. I think it was just everything at the right time. We had good conditions. I had practiced ditchings before. It was just everything was going in our favour, which was very nice.
So the people on board were pretty lucky that you were the one flying this thing and you had experience ditching in water.
I would say, yes, everything came together on the day.
One of those lucky people is Brad Lovett, who was then a 16-year-old in the Scots College band. He vividly recalls Captain Lovell's actions.
I just remember he was really the one that was getting us out very quickly, and I'd like to say thank you for saving my life and the lives of my friends.
Now, this pilot could finally be given the accolade he has never had. Coming up, did the people on that plane get a chance to say thank you for what you did that day?
Probably not. A few thoughts, probably.
But no one ever said thank you?
No, nothing that I remember.
Brad Lovett was part of a school pipe band that incredibly survived when their flight went down in Botany Bay. Today, Brad will finally get the chance to pay tribute to pilot Rod Lovell, who managed to ditch the plane without loss of life. Did the people on that plane get a chance to say thank you for what you did that day?
Probably not. A few thoughts, probably.
But no one ever said thank you?
No, nothing that I remember.
Hi, Rod. Brad.
G'day, Brad.
Brad wants to say thank you to you today.
Yeah, I do.
It's a pleasure, Brad.
Brad was on the plane that day.
Not a problem. It's all the day's work.
Is this where it happened? I don't even remember.
Just over there, between the two runways. Basically where that other aeroplane's landing, just this side of it.
I haven't seen Rod since the accident.
Yeah, 15 years, yeah.
Brad, what do you think of your pilot from that day?
Oh, he's a hero. I mean, every time I think about it, I'm glad I'm alive. So,
Yeah.
he's a hero. I'm just sorry about everything that's happened to you since.
No, it's history now. History, not a problem at all. If I can do my job, that's what it's all about.
Well, I appreciate that you saved my life and everybody else on the plane.
That's it. It's all a job.
Do you know, in that short period of time that it took to hit the water, he picked the spot closest to the boats so that they would get to you quickest.
Yes.
Quite amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
I would just, you want everything going for you, as I said, in a situation like that.
Yeah.
Close to the boats, close to the new runway, so that you guys can get out and get up there, have a coffee.
Yep.
It must be nice to come back here and to be able to laugh and
It's
say
amazing.
thank you.
Nice feeling.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see you again, Rod.
And you likewise, yeah. And we're not fish food.
I reckon. Good on you,
It
Rod.
really is. Thanks very much.
Good on you.
It has been worth the wait for the heartfelt appreciation that Rod earned the moment his piloting skills saved a school trip from a tragic end.